Hello and welcome. Generally, I try to keep videos to 5 minutes and under. However, there will be some occasions when I'm making a video or discussing a particular topic that has various elements and it will extend over. But that needs to happen sometimes just to provide clarity on the topic. So bear with me on this. Today's video, we're going to talk about the relationship between people who are already living in Canada and those who are coming, and they're related. So it's like you're coming to Canada, you have an uncle, aunt, brother, sister, whatever relationship is, and this video is going to cover a couple of topics so that expectations on both sides are met. Let me expand on that. Number of people we've spoken to who've arrived here, and we've asked them the question. You're staying at one of our locations for a period of time, and you're moving on to somewhere else, and you're moving on to a brother, sister, or some relative. Have you had the conversation and asked these questions? Now let's start with you're coming. Are you either coming on your own or you're coming with a family? Now, what we've found is that sometimes there's been brief conversations, and the person coming is thinking they can stay there for 6 months until they get on their feet, and the person who's living here thinks, well, they're only going to be with us for a few weeks, so we can accommodate them. There are a number of considerations and discussions that need to be had. Let's first start with the space. Is that relative who resides in Canada, where are they living? Or what kind of housing do they have? Is it a condo? Is it a house? Is it a room? Is it a basement apartment? So new people coming all will be living one of those, and it's going to be depending on their budget, where they are, where their job is. There are a number of variables. Let's start with a condo. Now, typically condos are privately owned, but are run by a management company which controls the whole building. There are strict limits on how many people can live in each unit. So if you've got a two bedroom, two bath, typically goes by bedrooms. You can only have, I think it's two adults and two children, or four adults. It varies. It varies from building to building, but there are limits. So you just can't have a family of four living there and then bring another family of four. It's not that's against their rules and regulations for the building. That's something to keep in mind. Another one we see is basements. People are living in basements. So someone has turned up, someone is living in a basement, they have a relative coming and they want to bring, they may have a big basement apartment. However, the landlord will not allow you to bring another family or individuals there to live, because generally what happens with a basement apartment is that the utilities are covered by the landlord. So once you bring in additional people, first of all, it may be against fire code, and two, the cost of utilities, that is electric, hot water, heating, will increase because you've got more people. That's another consideration. Let's move on to schools. If you have a relative that's coming to Canada, or you're that person moving to Canada, bear in mind that the schools you can choose are based on the address that relative lives at. So if they live in a particular area, they have a choice of certain schools. If you move from there, you may not be able to still go to that school. These are serious considerations to be thinking about. University, well, if you have a relatives coming and there are family members in that family who are arriving, who are going to university, they can begin university because they have to get there on their own. That's really on them, and you have to consider those costs too. Another thing that's not spoken about is how will the additional costs for bringing that family, for that family joining, two families coming together, how will that be met? Now, if you're living in a larger home, it's probably going to be easier to have another family in there with you without any any feedback, negative feedback from the landlord, because you're paying all the utilities anyway. But there is a limit to that too, and they will probably tell you you're paying all the utilities, all the expenses, so they're probably going to be okay with that. But how many people are they coming into your to join your family, and how is that going to affect the dynamics in your family, for example? And I'm telling this because this is real world stuff. You've got two women in the house. They both like to operate their environment differently, i.e., the kitchen. How will those two get on? Right? How will the funds for groceries be split if you're doing it that way? I don't know. I'm just giving you food for thought for discussions that need to be had, real discussions, so that relationship is maintained. We've seen a number of occasions where people have stayed with relatives for some time, and during that, they're under pressure. The people who are in the who already resided here are under pressure, and the relationship has just fallen down because all the negative interaction during the time that they stayed. So, the people have said to me, well, my family came and they pretty much imposed on me without asking me if they could stay for that long. This is why it's necessary to have those conversations. And something I'll add to this: don't assume that because that person's been in Canada for a period of time that they're necessarily able to accommodate you because they have lots of money. Doesn't work that way. Everybody's working and building as they go. So I'd ask, for the sake of maintaining your relationships with your family already living here, have those conversations and make sure that everybody understands what's expected, or the expectations on both sides. So you maintain your relationships and have a go-to person when you arrive and as you're settling in. It's always nice to have family around to bounce things off. Right, that's the information I have. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. You don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share it if you found this information useful. Take care. Speak to you again.